Welcome back, deep divers. We're going deep today into the world of names.
Oh, yeah.
But not just any names.
Yeah.
The names we almost had.
Interesting.
Like the ones our parents considered but ultimately decided against.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at a recent episode of the Box podcast.
Okay.
They uncovered some pretty wild stories about alternate names.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it really gets you thinking about family history,
Mm-hmm.
cultural influences, and even a bit of what if when it comes to our own identities.
I like it.
It's funny because I was this close to being named Balthazar.
Wow.
My parents, they were huge Shakespeare fans.
Uh-huh.
Thankfully, they went in a different direction.
Right.
But still, it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
How much of who we are is tied to the name we carry?
It's a question that has intrigued philosophers and psychologists for centuries.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Names are so much more than just labels.
Right.
They're woven into the fabric of our lives,
Mm-hmm.
connecting us to our families, our cultures, even our sense of self.
That's what they were talking about on the Box podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like how names often act as vessels of family history,
Mm-hmm.
passed down through generations.
Right.
It's like inheriting a piece of your family's story.
Exactly. These names become living embodiments of heritage,
Wow.
carrying traditions, values, memories from one generation to the next. It's a way of honoring ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
keeping their stories alive. And it's also fascinating how certain names are chosen
Right.
to reflect specific hopes or aspirations for a child.
Oh, I see. It's like a built-in legacy almost.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the pressure of picking a name that carries so much weight.
Oh, absolutely.
The ChatBX episode talked about how complex that decision-making process can be for parents.
Oh, for sure.
So what are some of the key factors at play there?
Well, personal preference is huge.
Okay.
Parents might be drawn to names that hold personal significance for them, whether it's a beloved family member or a literary hero, or even a place that holds special meaning. But it goes beyond just individual tastes.
Right.
There's a whole layer of cultural norms and expectations that come into play.
I can see that different cultures have different naming traditions, right?
Absolutely.
Like some cultures might emphasize names with strong meanings,
Yeah,
while others might prioritize names that sound beautiful
exactly.
or evoke a certain feeling.
Precisely. Names can reflect cultural values, religious beliefs, even social hierarchies.
Interesting.
In some cultures, certain names are reserved for specific social classes or castes.
Really?
Yeah. And then, of course, you have the influence of broader societal trends.
Oh, yeah. Those trendy names that seem to pop up out of nowhere.
right.
Makes you wonder how those trends take hold
Mhm.
and why certain names become popular in certain eras.
It's a fascinating phenomenon.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. You see it with everything from baby names to fashion to music.
How?
There's a kind of collective consciousness at play, a desire to be a part of something larger than ourselves.
Yep.
And sometimes that manifests in the names we choose for our children.
It's almost like a cultural barometer,
Yeah.
reflecting the values and aspirations of a particular time and place.
I like that.
So the ChatBX episode had some great examples
Oh, yeah.
of how all these factors,
Okay.
personal preference, cultural influences, and societal trends,
Mhm.
they all intersect in real-life naming stories.
I'm listening.
Take Maria, for example.
Okay.
Her parents initially considered Isabella
Uh-huh.
as a tribute to her grandmother,
Nice.
but ultimately chose Maria
Oh, okay.
for its simplicity and connection to their heritage.
It highlights how even when there are strong family traditions,
Right.
parents often weigh multiple factors and ultimately choose a name that feels most authentic to their family's story.
Exactly. And then you have Mark,
Okay.
who was almost named Jason
What?
because his dad had a last-minute change of heart.
Oh, wow.
It's wild to think how a single decision can have such a ripple effect. Mark even joked that his entire life might have been different if he'd been named Jason.
It's a thought-provoking concept.
Right.
While it's impossible to know for sure,
Yeah.
it does raise intriguing questions about the psychological impact of names and whether they can shape our destinies in subtle ways.
And speaking of psychological impact,
Yeah.
ChatBOX also touched on the idea of names as social signifiers.
Okay.
What exactly does that mean?
A social signifier.
Yeah.
Well, it's essentially a symbol that conveys meaning within a particular social group.
Uh-huh.
Think of it like a code that helps us navigate social interactions.
Okay.
Names function as social signifiers because they carry a lot of information beyond just identifying an individual.
Oh, say.
They can signal things like gender, ethnicity, social class,
Oh, wow.
even personality traits.
So our names are like little billboards
Yeah.
that broadcast certain messages about who we are even before we open our mouths.
In a way, yes. And those messages can influence how others perceive us and how we, in turn, perceive ourselves. It's a complex interplay between identity, perception, and social dynamics.
Okay, now that's where it gets really interesting. I'm starting to see how much deeper this whole name thing goes.
It truly is a fascinating area of study.
Yeah.
And the more we explore it, the more we realize that names are far more than just arbitrary labels.
Right.
They're powerful forces that shape our lives in profound ways.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the heart of our deep dive today.
Okay.
The idea that our names, even the ones we almost had,
Right.
can offer valuable insights into our families, our cultures, and even our own sense of self.
And as we delve further into specific stories and examples, we'll see how these seemingly simple labels can unlock a world of meaning and understanding.
I'm already hooked. So let's dive right into some of those compelling stories from the Chapiax episode.
Let's do it.
And see what hidden gems we can unearth.
Sounds good. So one of the most compelling stories from the Chat BX episode was Aisha's. Her parents considered Lila because of its beautiful meaning, but ultimately went with Aisha
I see.
for the sense of vibrancy and strength they felt it conveyed.
Oh, wow.
She believes her name has truly shaped her path in life.
That's a powerful testament to the idea that names can become self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder, if our names can shape our own perceptions of ourselves,
Right.
how much do they impact how others see us?
There's a fascinating body of research on this topic.
Oh, really?
Studies have shown that people make assumptions about others based solely on their names,
Interesting.
influencing everything from perceived intelligence and trustworthiness
Wow.
to even career prospects.
No way.
Yeah. A study by the National Bureau of Economic Research
Okay.
found that resumes with white-sounding names were 50% more likely to get callbacks for interviews compared to identical resumes with black-sounding names.
Wow, that's really eye-opening.
Yeah.
It shows how deeply ingrained these biases can be, even if we're not consciously aware of them.
Right.
And I imagine it can be even more pronounced for people with uncommon or culturally specific names.
Absolutely. Individuals with names that are difficult to pronounce or unfamiliar to others
Right?
often face a heightened sense of otherness.
That makes sense.
They might constantly have to explain or spell out their names, leading to feelings of exclusion,
Oh, yeah.
or even a sense that they have to overcompensate to be taken seriously.
I can see that.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
having a unique name can also foster a strong sense of individuality
Okay.
and make someone more memorable,
Right.
which can be advantageous in certain contexts.
So the double-edged sword, really.
It is.
It's almost like navigating a constant tension
Yeah.
between wanting to fit in and wanting to stand out.
Precisely. And that tension can be particularly challenging during childhood and adolescence,
Okay.
when social acceptance is so crucial.
Right.
Think about the experience of growing up with a name that's frequently mispronounced or mocked.
Yeah. It can have a real impact on self-esteem
Definitely.
and even lead to a desire to change one's name later in life.
It's amazing how something as seemingly simple as a name can carry so much weight.
It really is.
And it's not just about individual experiences, right?
No.
Names also play a role in shaping broader cultural trends and social dynamics.
Absolutely. Names are like cultural artifacts, reflecting the values and beliefs of a particular time and place.
Interesting.
Think about the popularity of biblical names in earlier centuries,
Right.
or the rise of gender-neutral names in recent years.
Yeah.
These shifts often reflect broader cultural shifts and changing attitudes toward religion, gender roles, and individualism.
And it's interesting how certain names become associated with specific professions or personality types.
Oh, yeah.
It's like there's this collective understanding that a John is more likely to be a lawyer,
Right.
and a Mary is more likely to be a teacher, even though there's no logical basis for that assumption. That's the power of social conditioning.
Oh.
We're constantly bombarded with messages, both explicit and implicit,
Right.
about what certain names mean
Okay.
and what kind of people they represent.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, those associations become embedded in our collective consciousness, influencing our perceptions and expectations.
It's almost like we're all playing a part in this grand social experiment,
Yeah,
shaping and being shaped by the names that surround us.
that's a great way to put it. It's a continuous feedback loop
Okay.
where names reflect societal norms, and those norms, in turn, influence the names we choose
Right.
and the meanings we ascribe to them.
So it's not just about our individual names.
Right.
It's about the entire ecosystem of names.
Yeah.
And how they interact with each other and with the world around us.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole topic so endlessly fascinating.
Hmm.
It's a window into the complexities of human culture,
Yeah.
identity, and social interaction.
This deep dive is blowing my mind.
Really?
But before we get too lost in the big picture,
Okay.
I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier.
Sure.
About the psychological impact of having a name that's difficult to pronounce or unfamiliar to others.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the long-term consequences of that experience?
Well, it can definitely lead to feelings of isolation or frustration,
Yeah.
especially in social settings.
Uh-huh.
Some individuals might even feel pressure to shorten their names or adopt nicknames
Right.
just to make it easier for others.
Makes sense.
And in some cases, it can even impact career choices or opportunities.
Really?
Yeah, if someone's name is consistently mispronounced or seen as a barrier,
I see.
they might be less likely to pursue certain paths or feel confident in professional settings.
It seems like there's a real balancing act when it comes to names.
For sure.
You want something unique and meaningful,
Mm-hmm.
but you also don't want to burden your child with a name that might cause them to feel like an outsider.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if we could go back and choose our own names,
Oh, yeah.
knowing all we know now,
Uh-huh.
would we stick with the ones we have
Good question.
or opt for something different?
That's a fascinating question to ponder.
It is.
Some might feel deeply connected to the name given to them,
Mm-hmm.
embracing it as a core part of their identity.
Right.
But for others,
Yeah.
there might be a sense of disconnect,
Okay.
perhaps a yearning for a name that better reflects their personality or aspirations.
It reminds me of that saying, what's in a name?
Right.
We've discovered there's actually quite a lot packed into those seemingly simple labels.
Definitely.
Our names carry history, cultural significance.
Mm-hmm.
They even influence how others perceive us. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. And while changing our names isn't always feasible
Right.
or desirable,
Yeah.
the process of reflecting on our names
Uh-huh.
and even exploring the names we almost had
Mhm.
can be a powerful tool for self-discovery.
I see that.
Think about the stories we've discussed today.
Okay.
Maria's connection to her heritage.
Right.
Mark's what-if moment.
Mm-hmm.
Aisha's belief in her name's influence on her path.
Yeah.
These stories illuminate the intricate ways our names intertwine with our lives.
It's like holding up a mirror to ourselves.
Yeah.
Seeing not just our present selves,
Uh-huh.
but also glimpsing the paths not taken,
Yeah.
the possibilities that exist within each of us.
Precisely. It's an invitation to explore the multifaceted nature of our identities
I like that.
and to appreciate the profound influence, both conscious and unconscious,
Right.
that our names have on who we are and who we become.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey.
It has.
We've explored the history,
Mhm.
the psychology,
Yeah.
and even the sociology of names,
Right.
uncovering hidden layers of meaning and significance
Absolutely.
we might never have considered before.
And as we conclude,
Yeah.
I would encourage you to reflect on your own almost name story.
Okay.
What name almost became yours? What were your parents' considerations?
Interesting.
Delving into this personal history can unlock surprising insights about your family,
Right.
your culture,
Yeah.
and even your own sense of self.
It's like we've been given a new lens
Mhm.
through which to view ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly.
So to all our listeners,
Yeah.
keep those names rolling, explore, reflect,
Mm-hmm.
and embrace the power and the mystery embedded in those simple yet profound labels we call names.
I like it.
Until next time.
Keep it real, keep it fun, and always keep it in the box.